Now, from the news team that's covering the Carolinas, this is Channel 9 Eyewitness News Sunday morning.
We're following breaking news right now. Police are investigating these two deadly crashes that happened within hours of each other in Charlotte. What we know about each crash right now. And a community group is trying to combat violence at the transit center after a security guard was brutally beaten. But first, you are waking up to a foggy and damp morning in the Charlotte area. This is a live look at our Speedway cam. You can barely see the roads and cars out there this morning because it is so foggy, so you'll have to be careful if you're going to be driving this morning. Good morning, I'm Elsa Gillis.
And I'm meteorologist Vicki Graff.
And Vicki is here to talk more about that fog and when it's going to be over.
We do have dense fog advisories in effect through 9 o'clock, and that's for most of the viewing area. Fog is a big issue this morning. We had rain yesterday. That has cleared out, and it's left us with the fog. If you're going to be out early, you need to take it slow, especially along some of the major interstates, I-77, I-85, and 485, from Concord, Charlotte, on through Lincoln to Shelby and Gastonia, even Rock Hill and Chester now. You can barely see about a mile in front of you, so make sure to use those low beams as well. That fog will lift by around 8, 9 o'clock, and it is cool for now. I'm not too concerned with freezing fog. It is a little cooler in Statesville at 35 degrees, but we are above freezing. Going through the day, it's going to be nice and sunny and warmer. We'll make it into the low 60s. I'll show you when we could be looking at more rain. That's coming up in the next half hour.
Not a bad day. Thanks, Vicki. Back now to that breaking news this morning. CMPD is investigating two separate deadly crashes that happened within 4 hours of each other. The first happened around 10 last night on the Plaza in East Charlotte. The second around 1:20 this morning on Runnymede Lane. Police say one woman died in the crash on Runnymede Lane near Barclay Downs Drive. This is video from the scene. You can see debris tossed across the road there. Police say only one car was involved in the crash and a second person was taken to the hospital with serious injuries. It's not clear what led to the crash. Now in East Charlotte, CMPD says a driver hit and killed a woman on the plaza. This is video from that scene near Heron Avenue. Police haven't said if the driver will face any charges. As soon as we get any new information in either crash, we'll let you know on air and online at WSOCTV.com. New this morning, President Donald Trump is calling out the FBI after he says agents, quote, missed all of the many signals sent by the Florida school shooting suspect. The president sent this tweet last night saying the FBI is spending too much time on the Russia investigation instead. We told you yesterday the FBI got a tip last month that Nicholas Cruz had a desire to kill and had access to guns. The agency admitted Friday agents failed to investigate. Cruz is accused of killing 17 students and staff at Stoneman Douglas High School last week. 14 others were hurt. Students in Florida are now demanding action from lawmakers. At this massive rally in Fort Lauderdale, they called on lawmakers to look hard at gun control.
This isn't just a mental health issue. He wouldn't have harmed that many students with a knife.
Every victim deserves this and more. Like, they will never be able to defend themselves again. And I think that we have to do every single thing in our power to try and give them even like a sliver of justice.
There are also calls for walkouts, sit-ins, and other actions at schools across the country, including right here in Charlotte. The organizers behind the Women's March are calling for a 17-minute walkout on March 14th to protest what they call Congress's inaction to do more than pray and tweet. According to organizers, there is a walkout scheduled at Ardrey Kell High School. A new Department of Children and Family Services report shows the suspect, Nicholas Cruz, had a history of autism, ADHD, and depression. His public defender says Cruz stopped taking his medication. Cruz also told investigators he heard voices in his head that gave him instructions on what to do in the attack. His neighbor says if he had known Cruz had a gun, he would have taken action.
I would have taken the gun from him. He had too much of a temper. He would break things. He'd be the last person who should ever have a weapon.
This week, North Carolina House Speaker Tim Moore will announce members of a new school safety panel. It will look at current safety standards and procedures at schools across the state. And this afternoon, Charlotteans will come together to pray for the victims in the Florida school shooting. The candlelight and prayer vigil begins at 1 p.m. at the New Outreach Christian Center. That's on Gossett Avenue in West Charlotte. Channel 9 is following every development in this tragedy. You can find more of our coverage on WSOCTV.com. Just search for this top story. Tomorrow, the man accused of brutally beating a security officer in Uptown will face a judge. Police say Officer Jeffrey Utin was trying to arrest Reginald Alexander for trespassing Friday night at the transit center. That's when police say Alexander punched the officer repeatedly and knocked him unconscious. Volunteers who've been working with officers to tackle crime at the transit center say Officer Utin referred multiple people he thought they could help.
We know him personally, and he's one of the best officers, one of the friendliest officers, and he is a officer, not just G4S.
The volunteer group has members from CMPD, CATS, and several other community partners. Reginald Alexander is charged with assaulting a law enforcement officer. As for Utin, he has serious injuries and is still recovering, but is expected to be okay. Channel 9 dug into crime reports near the transit center over the last 6 months. We found most were larceny cases, followed by disturbing the peace. New this morning, there are new concerns over the accuracy of rapid flu tests. Earlier this month, Georgia teen Kira Molina's rapid flu test came back negative. Days later, she died from flu-related complications. There's also 12-year-old Michael Messenger from Michigan who died days after his flu test came back negative. The CDC says rapid flu tests are only 50 to 70% accurate, and false negatives happen more frequently than false positives.
The guilt, because I'm a mom, I'm supposed to protect my kids, and I couldn't protect him.
Baylor University Medical Center in Dallas says its doctors aren't relying solely on tests, but rather also keeping a close eye on symptoms to see if someone has the flu. At least 84 children, including one from South Carolina, have died from the flu this season. The CDC says it's still important to get a flu shot if you haven't, despite the vaccine only being 36% effective overall. The CDC says we can expect a few more weeks of high levels of the flu, including in the Carolinas. 165 people have died from the flu in North Carolina this season, while 128 people have died in South Carolina. Channel 9 has extensive coverage on the flu, including the steps schools, hospitals, even churches are taking right now. It's all under the water cooler section on WSOCTV.com. Happening tomorrow. A man will face a judge for the first time, accused of firing one shot inside a Claremont plant. Officials say Chang Lee used to work at Advanced Pierre Foods. Friday night, they say Lee fired one shot in the break room as people were inside the plant on East Main Street. They believe the incident is domestic related because his wife currently works at the plant. No one was shot. New developments in the deadly Mexico earthquake. Officials say this is the military helicopter carrying high-ranking government officials that crashed as it surveyed damage. We told you yesterday at noon the chopper crash landed into vans in Oaxaca, killing 13 people. It was looking at the damage from Friday's 7.2 magnitude quake. New information, Statesville police say they're still investigating a deadly hit and run a year later. They say a driver hit Alfred Waugh on January 6, 2017, as he crossed Sullivan Road near the Waffle House. His daughter told our partners at the Record and Landmark she believes the driver is likely not from Iredell County because someone would have recognized this car with extensive damage. Police are asking any witnesses to come forward. 18 years after their daughter disappeared, a Cleveland County family says they're not giving up hope of finding her one day. The family of Aisha Degree gathered yesterday where she was last seen. She was 9 years old when her family last saw her at their Shelby home on Valentine's Day. The family says every year they'll march to remind people to continue looking for clues in her disappearance.
That's why we do this walk every year, to keep her name out, keep her, keep it on people's mind, even if it's just once a year.
Several drivers say they saw Aisha walking along Highway 18 around 4 a.m. the night she disappeared. More than a year later, her book bag was found buried along the road. Police are still investigating. There's a $45,000 reward in the case. Today, family and friends will honor a beloved teen on what would have been her 20th birthday. Police say Carson Whitesell was shot and killed inside the Peach Stand 1 month ago. They say the suspect, Christopher Mendez, had no connection with Whitesell. Family and friends told us she loved working at the Popular store and was dedicated to mission work in Africa. Happening tomorrow, a man accused of raping 2 teens decades ago in West Charlotte will face a judge again. CMPD arrested Zelly Edwards for second-degree rape and kidnapping after they say DNA testing linked him to 2 cold cases from 1988 and 1994. The victims were just 16 and 17 years old at the time. Edwards is still in jail this morning on a $150,000 bond. Happening tomorrow, Charlotte may be full of breweries, but City Council will vote tomorrow on an amendment to let wineries open in the Queen City. They would be able to make wine, cider, or mead in a less intense process than beer. Right now, Charlotte does not have specific zoning for wineries. The 2 cideries in town currently were limited to industrial property because that's where general alcohol production is allowed. Yesterday, an attorney working with companies for the zoning change told Channel 9 this comes down to one thing.
So it's really just a matter of fairness. Wineries are essentially identical to breweries, and it makes sense to change it so that they're allowed to go in the same places that breweries are in Charlotte.
Both Charlotte's planning staff and the zoning committee support this amendment. Again, City Council will vote on it tomorrow night. And Channel 9 will be at the meeting and we'll let you know what the council decides, both on air and on WSOCTV.com. It is 7:10 now. You are taking a live look outside from our Lake Norman cam. The sun is coming up, but there are a lot of clouds out there. Meteorologist Vicki Graff has an update on your forecast from Severe Weather Center 9.
And good Sunday morning. We did have some rain that moved through yesterday. We were stuck under clouds and cooler temperatures. That has cleared off. We're left with fog, though, and that's making it really tough to see on a lot of roads and interstates, especially from Concord, Statesville, Lincoln and Charlotte, Gastonia, Shelby, Rock Hill, and Chester. Take it slow if you're going to be out early, and also make sure to use those low beams. That fog will lift by around 9 o'clock, and then once we get through that, that's really our top threat for today. You don't have to worry about rain. We'll see a lot of sunshine, and rather than the cooler temperatures we had yesterday, it's going to be much warmer today in the mid-60s. I'll be pinpointing how long that warmer weather will last coming up.
Desperately in need of teachers. New at 7:45, the shortage of educators at South Carolina schools and how it could impact future funding. Panthers tickets are about to get a bit pricier next season.
I think it's worth it. Just any football game is worth it, honestly.
At 7:30, we'll break down how much it will cost you this upcoming season and why fans say they don't mind paying a bit more. But first, dozens of people are rallying behind a man accused in the disappearance of Brittany Drexel. The reason they call it a witch hunt nearly 10 years later.